Mike, Gene Wong here with the Washington Post. What stood out today the most, would you say? And as far as the quarterbacks go, did today's scrimmage provide any more clarity as to who might be the starter?
No, I'll tell you the big takeaway for me from today's scrimmage was I saw improvement up front. On the offensive line, I thought we protected the quarterback better. I thought we ran the ball a little bit better than a week ago. But as to be expected, defensively, we start out defensively usually starts a little further ahead. But I've been really, really pleased the way the first, second, and even some of these young thirds have come along up front out of this scrimmage. I thought we hit some situations this week that we last week maybe weren't as sharp on offense. I saw us improve in the red area today. I think all three quarterbacks really did a good job of managing the offense in the different situations we put them in. We had them in some third down situations. We had a couple 2-minute situations. We also had some move the ball drives and some red area stuff. So really good work for us to be able to get, see on film and get evaluated. But, if I were to come out of it, I'd say they all three played a pretty clean scrimmage.
We'll go to Sam next. Oh, sorry, Gene, you're on mute if you're asking a follow-up.
Sorry about that, my fault. Between now and the opener 2 weeks away, what do you want to see happen? And when do you switch from, execution and fine-tuning to actual game playing mode? Yeah.
We've got probably about 2 or 3 more practices that before we get into game mode, we'll start our UConn prep next Wednesday, as we typically do, which gives us a dry run of two solid 4 practice opportunities leading into the game. So I see us starting to start that UConn prep sometime Wednesday, Thursday of this week, and then be able to sit down with these quarterbacks on Sunday afternoon, evening, make some decisions on what we look like moving into game week prep, and continue to develop our roster along the way.
Thank you, Mike.
Problem, Gene.
Hey, Coach, Sam Jane, Diamondback. Just wondering, how have you seen the defensive backs progress in this later part of camp, especially if you kind of want to touch on Azar's impact on that unit, kind of coming into a talented group, but also one that lost, a couple of key contributors. How have you seen him work with the DBs, and where are they at right now?
Yeah, when we talk DB play, with Zach Spavitt all back there coaching the safeties, Azar coaching the corners and the nickels, they both have done a really good job of, when you lose the impact of, NFL guys like Jacorian Bennett, Deontay Banks, both playing at the next level, Jaquan Shepard being, signed and playing out in Vegas and Tarheeb and with the Chargers. We're replacing a lot of reps, and I think Azar has done a great job of the younger guys. The way we practice allows us to bring along the depth. And I think people here now kind of understand why we practice the way we practice, because it allows us to bring these younger players along as fast as possible. And you're starting to see the fruits of it. As far as Azar as a coach, obviously his experience, man, and the relatability as this generation is a one-of-one generation, and his ability to connect and figure out how to connect with the young guy to get them to buying into our standard. That's what he does. I call those type of coaches lion tamers, and Azar has that ability, and we're seeing the fruits of it with how fast some of these young corners have grown up during training camp.
You're a DMV guy, obviously Azar is too. Can you kind of talk about your guys' relationship, and also, what has his impact been in that area? Because I know he formed a prominent high school football program and then came to you guys. What is this kind of repertoire, I guess, in the DMV, or what is he known as around this area?
I mean, he's a guy that's, he gets it. It's one thing to be from here, but to really understand the lifestyle of what the fabric of being a DMV guy represents is what Azar is, a product of Dunbar High School, a DC public school guy. I'm a DC public school guy, graduating from the South Side. So I think the authenticity that he offers when he goes and sits in people's homes with a really clear, concise plan for how we develop you, not just as a football player here. And I think that's the part that, people, you can't make up. And I think because of the resources that have been poured into him, much like myself by the coaches that raised us, it's kind of like we've learned what our fathers taught us, and that's pouring back in. And anybody knows Azar, knows myself, knows that this area is really important to us, as well as the players that come out of this area, to give them a chance to change maybe the lineage of their families like we've been able to do through the game of football.
Thanks, Coach.
Matt or Gene, you guys have any more?
Yeah, I have a good question. Coach, I know you talked about just, Ty Felton and KP being able to, really kind of build on and off the field and, step into those leadership roles in that wide receiver room. But just, Shalik Knotts, Octavian Smith, and a lot of the younger guys, how do you feel like you've kind of seen them come along under Coach Gaddis through fall camp and now 2 scrimmages?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, as I were to evaluate just off the top of that group, we've seen the consistency out of the top 2, KP and Ty, and that their playmaking ability. They're going to have the ability to make plays for us down the field, ball in hand. They both are weapons. The one I've been really pleased with is, Octavian maybe didn't put himself in the best position this summer. Dealt with a lot of different issues all summer long that kind of put him behind the 8 ball per se, and he's worked his way out of it, man. And I like the way that he's practiced. I like the effort in which he's practiced, and he's shown up on tape, making plays here probably the last 6-7 practices. So, Punch as a younger player that I have big expectations for. This is going to be a big week for him. We need to see him take that next step, and I expect that he will. So I like the way they are coming along in that room. We've got some depth. Robert Smith has had a big camp for us. Every time you look up, those 3rd down plays, those Jay Sean Jones type plays that we are going to need from that position group. I've seen Rob, because of his versatility, be able to add some value and depth to the room.
Go back to Sam.
Coach, you kind of mentioned a couple months ago and now today that the defense is ahead of the offense. If those first couple games, if that kind of proves apparent and stays true, what would you tell fans, or I guess people that are kind of paying attention to that offensive side of the ball particularly? Do you think it's a unit that's really going to kind of grow as the season goes on, or do you expect a fast start?
I mean, the expectation is that we're going to develop our team as a whole. That's the way our program is set up. That's the process that I've learned from being at a really successful organization. Is you're always developing the weakest part of your team, and we're young on offense, but we don't get excuses. I mean, we've got players, and our jobs as coaches are to prepare them to play at the best, to the best of their abilities, and that ain't going to change based on freshman, sophomore. We're here to develop them now and not to wait. So what I would say is, we're going to continue to fail our way through it. We're going to figure it out as we continue to go along, as we've always done, with the expectation that we've recruited the right way. We have the system of plays that allows our offense to come along as the season gets better. I would expect all 3 phases of our team to improve as the season goes on, because that's just the way our program's built.
Yeah, Mike, we've all heard before that a newer quarterback's best friend is a reliable running game. How much do you anticipate that those guys in the backfield to lean on those guys, whoever the starter might be, to kind of ease that transition?
You know what? You achieve what you emphasize. And to me, if you look at the emphasis we've put on developing the offensive line, there's no surprise what we want to do. For us to take the next step in the Big Ten, winning in October and November means establishing the ability to play physical, run the football, play and win at the line of scrimmage on defense, which we've built the defense to do that. And now what we've got to do is continue to bring that young O-line, those inexperienced guys along, which I've been really pleased. I mean, it's been the one positive of this camp is that I see the development piece of the resources we poured into that position group starting to come to dividends. But again, we still have a lot of work to do up front. That's the area where it takes the longest to develop a guy because of the strength that goes into playing up front in the trenches.
Speaking of playing up front in the trenches, Andre Roy guy, obviously he got a chance to really step up last year, and he's, seen him just kind of playing with a lot of the ones. How have you kind of seen him progress from spring into fall camp now?
Yeah, he would be one of my stars of camp thus far. Dre has kept his mouth shut. He's managed the emotional part of the game that, from a maturity standpoint, I see him taking that next step, man. And I've talked to him about that piece. he plays it the way you want to play it, with that effort, and he plays with a little edge to where he's playing right to that echo of the whistle and how you want to see a young pup kind of grow up. And so I like the way Andre's coming along. He's playing and practicing with a purpose. And now it's will the consistency be there? And that's the part with a young team and young players, the consistency of playing that way day in and day out. And that's what we're striving for as we fight through camp and we hit those plateaus in camp. We got to push through. Great, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Drive safe, Dave.
Thank you.
I think.
You guys.